Got a post here from longhorns2422 who is having issues with tiny oscillations. It's a good thing you gave us the video for this one because honestly it's almost impossible to tell by looking at the gyro traces alone whether a tiny oscillation is visible or not. Big oscillations, of course, you can pick out very easily. And high frequency noise you can pick out very easily by the thickness of the gyro lines. But there's this middle ground of oscillations that are visible and you hate them and you want them to go away. But you can't actually tell just by looking at the gyro traces in Blackbox whether they're there or not. So you say none of the axes look good according to Blackbox, so we'll just give a basic rundown of the axes here. Rolls and flips feel solid. Fast forward flight or cruising has quite a bit of shake in the footage, both on the GoPro and the FPV goggles. That is a very good point that you mentioned that. If you have shake in your footage, check and see if it shows up both on your high def and your FPV cam. If it shows up just on your high def cam and not on your FPV cam, it may be that your camera mount is loose or you have something loose inside your camera. However, that being said, a lot of the time the standard definition video of the FPV goggles will not show shake that is visible in high def just because the standard def has less resolution, less frame rate, and its softness. So if you're recording 1080p 60 in your high def, it's going to pick up vibrations that maybe aren't visible in the FPV. On the flip side, if you've got a big fisheye lens on your high def camera, that can also obscure vibrations that maybe you would see if you had a narrower field of view on your FPV camera. So it could go both ways. But the fact that you're seeing the vibrations both on the high def and in the FPV camera suggests that it's not that you have a loose camera plate or something like that, right? So it's probably something actually happening in the copter and in the tune. So that's good to know. Let's take a look first, since you're having problems with oscillations and vibrations, we'll take a look first at your gyros. Your gyros look good, okay? So the lines are relatively thin. The gyro, the yaw trace has more noise, but not anywhere near so much that I would call it a problem. This is a relatively noise-free copter. So if you're having vibration issues, if you're having jello or oscillations or anything like that, we can say that you don't need to solve that by trying to balance your props or balance your motors or anything like that. You have a relatively noise-free copter. That is the foundation of a good tune. So fine, good. Let's now take a look at the general tune of your pitch, roll, and yaw axes. You say you've got an X quad. An X quad should have a relatively consistent tune between pitch and roll, but you never know. I seldom see them exactly the same. We're going to look here. In general, this looks fine so far. I'm just getting started. The P term is moving, but does not have any of those hard oscillations that I've mentioned in other videos. The D term is roughly in sync with the P term in terms of magnitude and shape. As you get down to lower throttle, we start to see some of these harmonics come out in the D term. These narrow jaggies here, that's not a problem. That's completely normal at lower throttle. I see that a lot, and it's not an issue. Very good. I would call this a good roll tune so far. Again, high frequency harmonics coming out as you lower the throttle right here. This shape in the D term and the P term, it's not a problem, especially because it's happening at low throttle, so you have relatively low authority anyway. Let's keep stepping through here and see if we can find somewhere where you raise your throttle more. As we get to right here, notice that the P term is becoming more active as you raise the throttle, okay? This is starting, just barely, to look like it might turn into an oscillation, but it's not there yet. It's not a problem. But as you look at the difference between right here, the way the P term is moving here, and the way it's starting to move here, you see how it's kind of wavy here? You can see these gentle rolling here, but there's also little zigs and zags within there as it's doing its thing. And as you get to right here, it starts to look more like an aggressive and smooth sine wave shape instead of this sort of wandery shape that is just doing its job. When the P term is sort of wandery like this, up here, down there, instead of looking like a perfect sine wave, that means it's responding to the external conditions, which are sort of random and irregular. When the P term starts to look like a smooth sine wave, that means it's driving the oscillations, and it's overwhelming its response to the external conditions. But we're not there yet, but I just wanted to point that out. We keep going. Now, okay, so now here you start raising the throttle. This to me looks like an actual oscillation that I would question at least. Let's play the video and see what it sounds like. We'll back up just a little. Okay, so I could hear that a little bit. And by the way, you probably can't hear my speakers, but I could hear that a little bit. Let's see if I turn it up just a little. Maybe you can hear it a little better, but you can always watch the video yourself if you want to. Just the tiniest bit. Man, if I didn't know it was there, I probably wouldn't even have mentioned it. I got to say, it only happened when you did this big punch out, right? And it's not even that hard or regular of an oscillation. It's starting to get to the point where, especially like right here, it looks like an oscillation. But it's very brief, and it's not like we saw in that crazy example 2 videos ago, just constant blah, 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 oscillations. So I'm not worried about it. This to me feels like a copter that is sharply tuned, but not over the edge into the case where we call it a tuning problem. Let's keep going. No problem here. Yeah, here's another little thing that might be an oscillation or a bobble, but it's just it's an isolation. It's not regular. And overall, I feel pretty good about this tune. What do we got going on here? Here's a lot of activity. Let's look. Let's slow it down just a smidge so we can understand it better. Yeah, so that's a prop wash oscillation there. You're turning, you're sliding into your own prop wash little oscillation here. That's completely normal that you would get a lot of activity there. Again, it's sharply tuned. If you were a real perfectionist, you might try and get rid of that. But at the same time, you might compromise a little bit of sharpness in your handling in order to get there. Overall, I feel like you're right in the ballpark of where you need to be with this tune for P and D. I have no real complaints here. So I think this is fine. Let's take a look at pitch, but if your tuning on roll is any indication, your tuning on pitch is going to be fine as well. So I've spent a little time looking at your pitch tuning, and I would say it's similar. It seems like there's more times when you get a little more D-term activity on pitch than on roll, and also your P term on pitch almost seems a tiny bit undertuned. It is very often small in magnitude and close to the axis, and it may be that you could stand to raise it a bit. I would give a try at raising your P term. Look, if you just look through the log, you can see here, this is where I'm talking about where your D term may be, your D gain may be a little too high. Things like this I kind of don't want to see, where the D term is spiking like this. Notice that the P term is moving around with it. I think this feels like a case where the D term is pulling the P term around as opposed to the other way. And it's definitely showing up these little zigzaggies in your gyro. Let's see if maybe this is the kind of oscillation that you're talking about. Yeah, see, I can see the jello kick in right there. Just as you throttle up here, I can see the jello kick in, and it really feels to me like this is excess D gain is what's causing it in this specific instance anyway. You do not have excess P gain. Let's look at this example. Prop wash, no big deal. Yeah, but overall, look how close your P term is to the axis through most of this log. I would raise your P gain on pitch probably by a fair chunk. I've got your log, I've got your command line dump up here, and your P gain is 1.5. Yeah, I would take that up to, oh no, sorry, that's float, my bad. Pitch P is 4, roll P is 42, yeah. I would take your pitch P up to 5, is what I would do. Give that a try. And your D on pitch is 18. I would take that down to 16. Your roll is right about where it needs to be. I wouldn't touch it. That's what I would say. So going back to your question about your little oscillations that you're having, I just spent a little bit of time watching your video, and you know, watching, it's easy to get buried in the logs and forget about the flight itself, but watching your video, overall the copter is very well tuned, and it seems like it's really close to where it needs to be. So congratulations on that. You know, you've done a very good job tuning it, and your flying is nice as well. In every case that I could find where I saw what looked like the little oscillations you might be talking about, I think it was the pitch D gain that is the most likely culprit. It becomes very active and can cause the kind of oscillations that I think you're seeing. So that's my best guess. Before we close, I would also just like to make sure we take a look at your yaw axis and see what's going on there. Uh-oh. I don't know. I don't know if I like this. Let's take a look. Um, mm, yeah, so your yaw. Oh, that's your gyro. Sorry. Where's D? What's your D at? D is 0. Oh, your yaw D is 0. Interesting. That's an interesting choice. Yeah, this looks okay. Your P gain on yaw is 9. That might be a little high, depends on the copter. What's happening right here in the video? See, that's just a punch out. That's not prop wash. This worries me a little bit and makes me think your yaw P may not be helping you. So I think that if I see this kind of thing, that's just high throttle oscillation, and it's definitely P term oscillation. And let's find another high throttle point. Yeah, see here, your P term is super active and your throttle's not even that high. Super active here, how it's jumping up and down. I think so I think I would lower your D gain on pitch just a little. Like I think I said from like uh 18 to like 16 maybe. And on yaw, I think I would try lowering your P term from 9 to 7 and give that a try. And I think that'll smooth it out a lot. Um, and or you could try adding some D. You've got 0 D on yaw. Give yourself 10 or 12 D gain on yaw and see if maybe that helps smooth out your P term a little bit. That could help as well. All right, that's my thoughts. Very nice flying and very nice flying tuning as well. Very nice flying copter. Hope that's helpful. Happy flying.